Good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Amit. Fine. How are you?
Doing very well, Gulshan. I'll take this opportunity first of all to thank both our panelists, Mr. Gulshan Bhaktiani and Vishnu Saraf, eminent industry people. Uh, Very warm welcome to both of you, and I hope that all our listeners and viewers will have a good afternoon post this call. We've had one of discussion, and before I get into the further rounds, I'll first take a minute to introduce both the gentlemen. We have Mr. Gulshan Bhaktiani, the founder for Wellness Forever Medicare. It is one of the largest pharmacy retail chain in Mumbai, which is offering medical, lifestyle, and wellness, and also FMCG products. He's been working in the field of pharma, sales, and retail for about 25 years and has extensive knowledge of the orthopedic implant and diagnostic products. He holds a BSc degree in physics and he's a health and fitness enthusiast. We also have Mr. Vishnu Sharaf. He's a CEO and founder of True Weight Wellness, one of India's fastest growing nutrition based healthcare companies. He's an IMA alumnus, not in Amritsar, he's Ahmedabad. We have a lot of IMs now. He's got about 11 years of experience in fitness and wellness sector, and he's authored a couple of books on nutrition and weight loss. Connect with you after this call for the weight loss bit for free. Vishnu also has been awarded with the prestigious 101 Global Healthcare Leaders Award by the World Health Organization, World Health Congress. So with this, I'll just also give you a brief about me. I have, my name is Amit Arora and I'm leading the point of sales business for Pine Labs for the retail segment. I've been a banker out and out, 2 decades of banking experience, have the opportunity to work with Kotak Mahindra Bank, Standard Chartered, Citibank in my last 20 years. Predominantly, I've seen a lot of sides of the banking, both assets and liabilities. Avid investor, I would say. Like you like write books, you have your businesses. For me, my best time is when I buy and sell equities, and that's something which kind of completes me. So that's a small brief about me. We start now, and I'll want Gulshan and Vishnu to take us through their journey as they started their businesses, and now amidst this so-called opportunity stroke crisis, how do you think as companies you are, and then that's where we'll start building up. So maybe Gulshan, if you could start now, Vishnu, if you could also add your journey till now. How's this being the father of a company, feeling it to be?
Thanks, Amit. Very quickly, my journey, I started as a medical representative in a pharma company in 1985. Happened to be a medical representative by chance. Simply, that was the only best paying job that time. Wanted to start my business purely as a forced entrepreneur, simply because I did not enjoy my job. I think that I would kind of say is the DNA of India. So then opened my small pharmacy. That was in the year 1993. Since then, grew that business. Opened multiple businesses like opening a genetic lab, a molecular genetics lab, a distribution agency of diagnostics and implants. Today, we own Wellness Forever, which is about 200 pharmacies, around 1,000 crore sales we do. Then about 4,000 people we employ, and also own a company called Lilac Insights, which is a molecular genetics and a diagnostic company. And so that's the business so far. Now going forward, the whole world is in uncharted waters. While all the people may agree that, may say that, healthcare is something that is not as adversely affected. Healthcare is something that is positively. It is a very narrow way of looking at things, simply because healthcare is getting rewritten, getting redefining itself. So there are a lot of changes during the course of this discussion. I will also touch upon how is the healthcare providers and how is the business getting disrupted for us? Yes, temporary disruption in terms of, in some industries the business is zero now. In our industries, so we are relatively less impacted, but that's only in short run. And how we are going about it, I think during the course of this discussion, we'll go about it. Over to you, Vishnu.
Thanks, Gulshan. Thanks, Amit, for the wonderful introduction. So just a couple of lines about my journey, how I started. So I did my MBA from IIM Ahmedabad, passed out in 2007, worked with an investment bank. And I come from a small town in Bihar. So getting a job in London, working with a big investment bank was a big deal. But then I realized at the age of 25, this is not what I want. This is too comfortable. This is something I would have expected to get at the age of 50. I've got at the age of 25. So I said, no, let me go back and demote myself from a 5-star hotel and a business class flight to a bus journey again, and started my entrepreneurial journey. And so I'm a Marwadi, so business is in my blood. But started in a new place, started a new business. So started a fitness club for women. Had never been to a fitness club ever in my life before I started mine. Ran that chain for 5 years, but then realized that it's not about food. It's not about exercise. It's actually about food. Food is 4 times more powerful than exercise, and pivoted the business model from there to what we are doing. And in between, again, pivoted at multiple points of time. So big learning is always, you need to be flexible, you need to be nimble, you need to be persistent. Okay, so there's it's a double-edged sword, being persistent and being flexible. So I've been persistently doing business for 11 years, being in the health and wellness sector, but at the same time being flexible to move from fitness chain to a nutrition company, from an offline company to an online company, from a non-tech company to a tech company. So these are things which are applicable in crisis or outside crisis. And I think so as a businessman, most of us are in the crisis 90% of the time. Right now we have got an excuse of coronavirus to be explaining why we are in the crisis. But I think so in 11 years of my business, I think so I've been in crisis for 9 years. Right now, at least people can sympathize with me that why are you in the crisis? So I feel slightly better that I'm not the only one suffering from this. So but the rules which have been applicable for so many years is applicable now even more. So we'll come to
Vishnu and Gautam, Gulshan, I'll just hold you here at this very thought. You used a very important word called tools. Now, a lot of the young entrepreneurs who would not have experienced the journey or experience even academically as both of you have, what will be your top 2-3 tools that you would be or you have been using throughout your careers as entrepreneurs, and you find them that since you are doing that since a long time, they are the most important or the handiest tool to you right now?
So I think so the 2 words which I used, I think so those are 2 most important words. Being persistent, never give up attitude. That's the most important thing. And I don't think so that comes from the degree. So a lot of people would think that probably the degree from IMA would have helped me run my business. But no customer pays you money because you come from a good, credible college. In fact, so just to explain the journey, I didn't buy a computer for 1.5 years of my business. I bought my first printer after starting the business 1.5 years later. And that was such a proud moment that I could buy a 4,200 rupees printer for my business from my own income or from my own revenue. So you don't have a golden spoon if you come from a credible college. It's not like that. Customer pays you only on the basis of what you offer to them. So number 1 is persistence and never give up attitude. Have faith and work as hard as you can. And second, as I said, flexibility. So be willing to change, be willing to question everything that you do. Okay, whether you have to change the ship that you are in or change the way ship is running from a motorboat to hand-thrown boat or whatever it is. So be flexible. Don't fall in love with your baby so much that you're not willing to change it at all. And that's a big mistake we make as an entrepreneur. Our businesses are like our babies. And every baby is beautiful. Your baby is definitely world's most beautiful baby. So you don't like to see the flaw in it. But you have to be a little ruthless and say, no, this doesn't make sense. It has to change. Despite it, it doesn't matter whether it is my idea or not. So I would say flexibility plus persistence.
Fully agree, Vishnu. In addition to what Vishnu is saying, one tool that we have always thought is that we never wrote a mission and vision statement. And our statement was very simple. We will become whatever customers want us to become. Okay. We believe that an entrepreneur should first decide what the customer wants, and the company should be built to satisfy the customer's need, rather than coming with a large statement like we want to be the world's best so and so. And that's only about you. That's only about the company. Now, when that's the vision and mission, a lot of time will get wasted on what is the company's vision and what we want to do. If the focus shifts on what my customer wants, and the answer to that is not beyond common sense, because finally we are also customers of many businesses, and in some way our own business as well. So if the focus shifts on that, be what your customer wants, you will end up mastering an art of constantly rediscovering yourself, rather than be fixated with your vision statement. So that is yet another, if I can say, a fine art tool that we have been using. Apart from, of course, extremely die-hard, a burning desire, if I may say, to win, and perseverance and persistence, as Vishnu very correctly put.
Which makes me think again, is this, you're saying this, the fact that you are flexible and you want to be what the customer wants you to be, is that the size, or is that, or would it be, and now challenge your thoughts, specific scale and size, would this continue? Would you be allowed to be so flexible, and would you be allowed to do whatever the customer wants you to do when you maybe would be $1 billion company? Or is it the size that you are in is forcing you to maximize whatever customer demands are, and maybe 10 years hence that will not be a priority?
Customer requirement is a DNA. It will not change. So to simply, size has nothing to do with who you want to become. Okay, a small elephant will grow up to become a big elephant. You cannot then become a dinosaur. So what your customer wants you to do has absolutely nothing to do with your size, and it is a myth that as you grow big, there are some policies will force you to streamline few things, and you may not be as. No employee is bigger than the company, and no company is bigger than a customer. And if you now think what your customer wants, and if your company can do what your company wants, if at all your policies or processes or your size has become too big for the customer, it is time to downsize. It is time to create 5 divisions in the company. But if you ask yourself, you are unable to do what your customer wants, then you have grown bigger than the customer. And then that's in some way a beginning of irrelevance, not beginning of the end. There are so many big companies who are very irrelevant to the customer. Customer uses them just because they've been in business for so many years. And there's no loyalty about them. Given a first disruption, they'll be disrupted because they are now wanting the customer to adapt to them. So, one of the things, these thoughts that our size might not allow us are, global best practices templates, which small companies or medium companies try to adapt, rather than trying to become what the DNA is of the organization and the belief of the organization is. So I would say that trying to adapt to a customer is a far more exciting journey and a far more perpetual journey than becoming too big for the customer and then managing a journey between processes and a customer. I hope I have answered that query.
Vishnu, your thoughts on this? One of the biggest challenges that we see is that as we are nimble, flexibility, doing what your customer wants is the name of the game. But as you start becoming big, you'll want to in fact do the reverse and some standard practices into place. The cash counter guy can do this much, his boss can do this much. this is what we will bend, this is what we will allow, and we start putting in policies instead of practices.
Yeah, no, I agreed with you, Amit, the concern that you are saying. So I'll just give 2-3 examples. So first is that one thing which I keep on telling all my employees, that only constant in life is change. Okay, and if you are uncomfortable with change, get used to it. So any employee who leaves our company and comes back after 6 months finds a new company. Okay, now we are much smaller. So you are right in saying that it's easy to implement changes when you are small than you are big. But one of my ideal companies is Google. And I've read multiple books on Google. You will not find a more innovative, more nimble company than Google, where they come up with new products. They are trying many different moonshots. They are trying to create a driverless vehicle when they are a search company. So it's not like big companies cannot change. There are multiple big companies which change, and people who don't change become irrelevant and die. So size can make you complacent. Size can add bureaucracy because of which you don't change. But if you don't change, then you become irrelevant. So you have to change. And one of my favorite book, which is the easiest book. So many of the viewers right now may not be interested in reading books. So my top choice to everyone, which is also the book of the moment right now, is called Who Moved My Cheese. It's an amazing book. It takes half an hour to complete the book. Easiest book in the world to read. You feel good that you have read a book and not just watched a sitcom. And that book talks about that when your cheese is gone, when the market has evolved, either you can be reluctant and become irrelevant, or you change and find new cheese. So I would recommend
I must tell you, disheartened a lot of people. Because everybody was expecting that abhi ek dhamakedar book aane wala hai koi, that in the next 5 birds will not be able to read. And fortunately, you will name the book, which is like a 20-minute read, and that's typically, it's not even called reading.
It's the most amazing book. I've read it like 5 times. I've read it again during this crisis. And people who can't even afford 20 minutes reading, I would say go and Google in YouTube. You'll find the 11 minutes video on it, which is equally wonderful.
We are actually going in a very beautiful way that, both of you are actually speaking almost the same language to comments, and therefore it is maybe a good insight towards an entrepreneur's mind, because maybe at a lot of levels they're almost all alike. The only difference maybe are some number of zeros that they would have earned, maybe that is different, but predominantly the entrepreneurs mind is very similar, and I'm seeing the commonality of the trends in both of your mind. One of the words that both of you have very significantly spoken about is this word irrelevant. Okay, and again, easier said than done, and we were discussing about this yesterday. How do you find, as entrepreneurs, as executives of top firms, as business leaders in big companies, that this is getting irrelevant? I completely agree to Gulshan's word that if you continue to become bigger than the customer, then you're taking your steps towards this irrelevance. But when you're doing it, is it possible for you to identify it? Can you run away from it? And if yes, what will be the ways to do that? And it will therefore, enlighten a lot of the young minds who maybe are at this call, as I'm addressing, as if I'm Narendra Modi addressing the nation, but pardon me for that. But I'm, if I was a young entrepreneur and I would want to learn from people who have got the first decade right, and they did not, started to become salaried employees again because they goofed up. So to that extent, successful entrepreneurs. I want to understand from both of you, how do you start understanding that ye step irrelevant hai? This is taking me towards the sphere of irrelevance. This is somewhere where I am becoming, or my company or my division is becoming bigger than.
I think that question has to be asked on a daily basis, almost on a daily basis. Even in good times, when things are going in your way, it's difficult to ask that question. It's easy to be complacent. It's easy to be arrogant and say that I am everybody. I know everything in life. Okay, but if you look at big people, the common advice, like Intel CEO Jeff Immelt, if I'm not wrong, had written a book on paranoia, that you are always afraid that somebody else is trying to copy you or come up with a solution which will make you irrelevant. And people can start a company in today's time from the garage. So unless you are paranoid about that fact that you might become irrelevant, there's a big danger. So that is during good times when somebody needs to motivate you to be paranoid. But right now that question is not important. Right now there's no other choice. Even if you want to be arrogant, the nature has shown you your true worth and put you in a condition that you have to ask this question. So it's not normal time. You have to ask this question that am I becoming irrelevant? So there's no business, I think so, which can afford not to ask this question during these times.
Gulshan, your views on this, how do I find out that now I'm getting irrelevant?
So I would answer it two ways. One is that none of us have a crystal ball. At least me as entrepreneur, learn every day by mistakes. If we have an ear to the customer that this he is not appreciating, this has gone wrong, we have the humility to come to the boardroom and say, boss, we gone wrong, this is not working, customers are not appreciating it, let's quickly roll it back. Okay. Irrespective of how much marketing money has gone into it, irrespective of how much big lectures I gave about it to my team only 5 days back as to how good this plan is. Okay. So one is quickly adapting to something that the customer is not accepting, even if you have $100 million plan about it and you have given a big picture to your investors. Accept that this is not getting appreciated by my customer. Pure acceptance is a solution. All entrepreneurs know what to do next. Mostly they go wrong on accepting. So that is one thing, be humble to accept that this is not working. And second thing is, don't write, if every day morning you're coming to the office and saying, yes, how much is the sale? How much is the growth? If that's a question, then probably that's not a right question, because that's about you. That's about the company. Can we ask how many new customers came? How many loyal customers came back? What is the repeat purchase ratio yesterday? What was it against the target? And how many customers chose not to come back to us? Okay. And are we in a journey of constantly onboarding new customers? So how closely I'm looking at is sale is a medium via which I see the customer, or is the customer a medium by which I see the customer? So these two small things, will even at an idea level, if they are seated in an entrepreneur side, then he settles the direction of the company down like that. Then the whole company starts looking at where we are going wrong. And then the questions they always ask to the customer, sir, is not something, please give me how satisfied you are. The question then goes is, please give me how dissatisfied you are with what I have done. If that is the DNA of the organization, then you will continue to remain relevant.
I think one of the names that comes to my mind.
Sorry, 1 minute, I just add here. In our company, there is a command center which only if you come and give us a less than 2 kind of a star out of 5 stars, we feel 3 and 4 is mundane. People who are not interested in you will give you 3 and 4 stars. You have to genuinely do something good to deserve 5 stars. But if you have got 2 and 1, then that is your opportunity of business. So in our company, we have a 5-minute turnaround time. We have a full call center setting who will go any lengths to make sure that that 2-star and 1-star customer is not only heard but it's scaled up to the last point. And if it requires a policy change, if it requires a business plan change, then we'll at least consider this rather than saying that is not in the policy.
Give some of the typical guy coming into your store, giving you a 2-star. Why would that have happened? And then give an example of how did you resolve it?
So, when we call a customer, we feel whether there is a behavioral issue or there is some, employee has misbehaved or something, or there is something that we told the employee to do. For an example, you came to the store, you are my loyal customer. You said, look, Gulshan, I want this medicine to return this medicine. Okay. And I don't have a bill. I don't remember when I bought it, but I bought it from you. Okay. Now the policy is that if you don't have an invoice number, then only against that invoice, because of the safety of the medicines and batch numbers, and the policy is that we have to take it. Now, One customer fought, second customer is unhappy, third customer is dissatisfied. Why do you always ask me the bill? I don't remember. Instead of saying that's a policy, we said let's find out the way of informing the customer what he has bought last time. Going and checking it, now I want to confirm. We then said by cloud we will send him the information of when he bought this medicine from us, and then he has to confirm it through a password, and that password automatically syncs with our system where we are ready to accept that returns. We could have easily gone back. The policy is that the customer has to remember his invoice. He has to bring the invoice. And there are companies who would take 1 year before realizing. So the question is not what my policy is. What my policy is supposed to be what my customer wants. The adaptation is, the rule is that the policy has to adapt the customer's needs and not the customer has to adapt to my policy needs. And no matter how sacrosanct the policy is, it cannot be above the customer. And I will tell you, it may sound very, vague to listen to at first time. But the purpose of the business is the customer. So, have I answered that query?
Yes, you have. So now we reached to a stage where I think now we have reached the stage where even our sponsors get come in the game. Where is the digitization of the payment or the world revolving around us now moving towards this new sphere of digital payments? Will this help the today's entrepreneur get more of these feedbacks?
Vishnu?
Yeah. So I think so. There's no alternate to digitization of payments, and I'm a firm believer from the beginning that cash should be irrelevant. Why should cash be required apart from making very, very small transactions of 5 or 10 rupees or 20 rupees? There's too much of burden of managing cash, tax evasion, printing cash, shifting from ATM to ATM. So those are things which government could probably not push during good times. One, demonetization led to heavy noise in the system. But now the virus will force us to think about only digital payment and forget about any cash. Touching cash, I have not touched cash for last 40-45 days, and life is as smooth as ever. So digitization will definitely happen. There are multiple benefits to it. I would say the biggest benefit of digitization is EMI options. All the obvious things that you have, the record, the pilferage, the headache of depositing cash, all those things do exist. But I would say the biggest impact is EMI. On a cash, every shopkeeper will say ki aaj nagad kal udhar. Okay, customer wants udhar, but in cash you can't give udhar. But in card you can give udhar because the card companies have the wherewithal to give you the loan. Okay, now on a EMI you can sell much easier and much higher ticket size items in a much easier fashion. So just in my case, the moment we launched EMI option, we could double our revenue in 3 months' time. Double our revenue without doing anything. No additional marketing, no additional sales force. But just because we offered a EMI option, people were comfortable paying double the amount without any problem at all. Because now your monthly EMI looks cheaper. Okay, just to give an example, my friend bought a TV worth 3 lakh rupees 2-3 months back. And I said, how can you buy a TV for 3 lakh rupees? It's such a huge amount. The answer he gave was, no, it's not 3 lakh rupees. It's only 6,000 rupees per month. Is my voice audible, Amit?
Yes, very.
Yeah. So it's only 6,000 rupees per month. Now that's the difference in the digitization, that instead of looking at TV at 3 lakh rupees, you're looking at it as only 6,000 rupees. So I would say we should use this opportunity and try and see how do we convert the payments into easy EMI options, make it easier for people. And in today's time, people would not have enough cash. People would be more willing to take things on a credit, and that credit should be possible in digital payments market.
So we've started receiving questions now. The first question I have is for Gulshan. Gulshan, how do you see the pharmacy, the old mom and pop pharmacy business changing when players like you, on the back of aggregation and digitization, come into the game?
Our country, as I said, is a forced entrepreneurship. So there are simply too many retail stores. You can loosely call them as mom and pop stores, organized retail, online chemist, then social commerce, Amazons of the day. My answer to that is that all companies that are inefficient will perish. No matter who you are, you may be a mom and pop store, you can be Wellness Forever, and you can be a very big aggregator. If you are inefficient in the current scenario, when the world itself is in uncharted waters, all of us are on the business of only and only identifying doing more with less, and therefore inherent inefficiencies which were extremely order of the day during good times, if they are not identified and if they are not done and dusted with, irrespective of your size, you will perish. In fact, I would go one step further to say, mom and pop stores, because they don't have rents and because they don't have store manager salary, and the entrepreneurship skill is there. They don't have an IIM degree, but then they understand art of survival. Simply because they understand the art of survival, they may not have a distinction of a word called efficiency or inefficient practices, but they would be the first one to identify and probably get solutions. They may not be the best global practices, but they may be the best practices applicable to that model. And therefore, to summarize, the answer is the game is as open for anybody who is wanting to get onto the efficiency journey.
Now, this question is for both of you, Vishnu and Gulshan. The question is, how or what all things you have done in the past few weeks, which are specifically to come out or to fight this, the decline in sales environment, or this so-called threatening environment to the business. So, what are the 2 or 3 smart, out-of-the-box thinking ideas that you have implemented that people may want to laugh about them, but those might be your best go-to strategies for the future?
Yeah. Should I go first? Yeah. Okay.
Yes, Vishnu.
Okay. So I see it in 2 fashions. First is short term. Short term has to be all about survival. Short term is not about growth. Short term is not about trying to figure out in this market how much can I sell. That we need to do whatever we can do, but the short term immediate focus is cut your cost as much as possible. Okay, for revenue has been cut abnormally for majority of us. For majority of us, it's probably 100% of revenue has gone down. So your cost has to be cut ruthlessly. Okay, there is no doubt about it. Don't think about anything. As long as you are giving money according to your capacity and making sure that your people are getting food, and you're giving enough to help them sustain, that's all you need. Apart from that, like our marketing cost, everything. So we have been able to cut our cost by 80% within 2 days of lockdown. 80%. And if we didn't do, we would die. Okay, so there's no politeness. There is no thinking that no, things will become better in 2 months or 3 months. We said no. Think about the worst. If it continues for 3 months, we will not survive beyond 1 to 2 months if we don't cut costs. So we implemented.
One of the things that you are saying that entrepreneur has to also be a samurai warrior.
Yeah, you have to be. So you have to take all the shit. You have to take a lot of negatives. People will say you are being unreasonable. Your employees will say, no, how can you cut 50% salary and 75%? We say, if company does not exist, you don't exist. So if we had the option of having a lot of money in the bank, if we are Reliance, we can afford to pay money, we can afford to pay money. But I don't think so that's the case with 90% of businesses. And if you don't give enough money for people to eat food, then that's a problem. Like if you have laborers, we have not cut anything for them. So people at the lowest level, we haven't cut anything. But for majority of people, it's 50 to 75%, including 100% for the promoters. So, and from the landlord to every vendor, we went, negotiated, we looked at every single penny of cost and figured out so many expenses which were not required and we were spending unnecessary. So that is the short-term strategy, but this short-term strategy will not help you in the long term. So this short-term strategy is also to figure out that in the long term, how do you stay alive? Okay, you cut costs, but after market also starts opening up and starts becoming better in 6 to 12 months time, your old business model may not work. So an example I say is that in every business, there are fundamental problems in the business and you are not able to work on those fundamental problems because you are running on a treadmill or you are driving a car. So we want to change the engine of the car or repair the engine of the car. But because car is driving at 120 km/h speed, you can't do that. Now you're forced to stop the car. So this is the time to repair the car so that fundamental problems of the businesses are taken care of. And in the long term, you come out strong. So in my case specifically, we spend a good amount of our money, actually 40 to 45% of our revenue on sales and marketing. Okay, now that's a huge cost. So despite having a decent margin, we still struggle as a business. 45% on sales and marketing is a humongous cost. So we have to spend a lot of money with Facebook and advertisement. Now, solution that we have always wanted is the organic growth or referral growth. How do we grow without spending a lot of money on marketing? But in normal days, we won't spend a lot of our effort on that direction because you spend money on Facebook, you get money tomorrow. And whereas if you have to work on referral and organic, you need to put in efforts which will give you results probably after 6 months, which may or may not give you results. So hence we ended up doing more urgent things, not important things. Now in this time, I said, so one of the big philosophy in life is that every problem is a gift. Every problem comes in your life to teach you a lesson. If you learn the lesson, it becomes a gift. If you don't learn the lesson, the problem comes back again and again till the time you learn the lesson. So I said, if coronavirus has come to my life as a problem, what lesson is it trying to teach me? If coronavirus was a god, he comes and says, Tathastu, I'll grant you a wish. What do you want to learn from me? So one thing I would want to learn from coronavirus is how to go viral. There's nobody in the world who knows this subject better than coronavirus, how to go from 1 to 2 to 4 to 4 to 8. Again, that is something I've not been able to do for 11 years. So being a Marwari, people say Marwaris are makhi choos. I decided to become Corona choos. I said I will learn this lesson from coronavirus before coronavirus leaves the world. And can I beat the virus in its own game? Coronavirus could reach 20 lakh people in less than 100 days. Can I reach 20 lakh people without spending a dime and reach 20 lakh people by doing something? And with that objective, we took that pledge on 24th or 25th of March, and we have been working hard on that. So one action which we took, which I think so a lot of viewers will also appreciate, is we said there is a paid program. People have to take the program to follow what we are doing. But in today's time, that's not feasible. So what is that people want right now? People want to figure out how to fight the coronavirus. What is in my hand? Should I just wait for vaccine? Is there something which I can do at my level? Answer to that question is yes. If you have a strong immunity, there's no problem at all. 99% of people who die of coronavirus die because they have low immunity. 80% people don't even show symptoms because their immunity is strong. Now immunity is in your hands. So I did a lot of research on it, read 7 books, did online courses, and created a 55-minute long course on our app. How to fight back with immunity. Now that course we launched in our app, made it free. People can go download that in our TrueIt app. Now over 1,000 people have already seen the course in last 1 week. And the rating that we have got from that course is phenomenal. So on a scale of 5, our rating for that course is 4.91. I've never seen anything with such a high rating in my life. 4.91 is a phenomenal rating. So people are loving the entire course, saying that, okay, these are things that I can do at my level. Now, this is not my core of the business. We haven't talked a lot about immunity. We haven't done any free courses. App has not been our marketing strategy. So all these changes have happened in the last 40-45 days. right from research to writing the script to shooting the video to uploading it, changing the entire app. So it's a lot of flexibility. Many people in the team work till 4 o'clock in the night for multiple days to make it happen, despite not getting paid for it. Okay, so one thing is cost cutting. Another thing is to work on something which will help you in the long term, which you wanted to do but could not do. This is the time to repair your engine.
Gulshan?
Completely agree with Vashnu. This is more or less what we have been doing. The day one Corona, we were facing a disruption. We divided the company into two parts, the teams into two parts, short term and long term. Short term, purely the plan is to be ruthless, to be in the survival mode. So therefore, when it was salary normalization, when it was rents normalization, maddening speed, we were trying to communicate people. However, at the same time, what we promised our people is that if this year we are making profit, we'll return your salary to you. Yeah. So we kept the motivation also going simultaneously. Okay, so this is a deduction, but it will become a deferment if at all the company is making profit this year. Okay, and we have taken an oath. Every single employee has taken an oath the company will make profit better than last year. Because what is getting available to us by the long-term team that we have created is the company is saying that earlier we used to take 10 days to make one video. Nowadays we are making it available in 3 hours, 4 hours. The LMS is significantly shorter. On the rediscovery path, what we are seeing is that a company spent a lot of time thinking a debate between online and offline. And it was last week that the company decided that in the area of being a good wellness company worldwide, India-wide, there is nobody present there. Just like for Chashma, you go to Lenskart.com. If you want immunity products, if you are wanting a good healthcare product, if you need a good wellness, Ayurvedic, homeopathic product, probably you might prefer to go to Ayurcart or Wellness Forever more than probably Amazon or Flipkart. So that place is completely vacant, and that's the journey that the company will take. So the whole paradigm of thinking has changed. The whole playground on which we are wanting to play and the whole business plan has changed. But that is as far as the new business is concerned, including the existing business, that is 200 shops that we have. The company said that now we will have another, kind of a division where we will mentor the mom and pop stores. And this year we will have 500 additional mom and pop stores which are having aspirations of Wellness Forever, but probably do not have the provisions, processes, and the team of Wellness Forever. So we will kind of, extend the reach of our team to have 500 more stores in our operational geographies to augment the current sales. So that happened only last week, and we've taken the time till next Thursday. The business plan appears to kind of double in this year. So more or less on lines of what Vishnu is doing. And what we are realizing is that Corona has, and in fact we had a presentation in the company. What made us grow? Is it our aspirations? Is it the market size? Or is it coronavirus? So the aspirations probably were always there. The market was always there. Digital tools and all were probably always there. But it is the disruption that really made us see that opportunity. And so that's what we are on.
Question for you, Gulshan. How to match the customer's expectations against the profitability of the company? You were speaking about the fact that customer always comes first, and he is the purpose of our companies to be existing. So at times that comes at the profits. Now, as an owner of a business, how do you be the customer and the profits?
So, it is a customer who's going to bring the profit. So there cannot be two baskets. If your customers are coming and you're not making profit, it is your expenses that are the culprit, not your customer. Okay. So therefore, if the customer doesn't come, there is no GP, there is no NP. NP is whether it is positive or negative is a small fraction of a GP, So it is only the customer who makes profits for you. Your expenses, your policies, and everything below GP is what your cost is. Hello?
I think that's a full statement that, you get killed with the expectation. Because customers' expectation actually help you drive further and better and smarter. It's your own stupid cost that you bought when you thought that your money in your when you thought that your money in your pocket and you thought this is cheap, and when the things go down, that the cheap thing starts looking more expensive now. That's what kills you more than the customer's expectations.
So as a company, how we took it is like a cricket. India, we are very all fond of a cricket match. Your customer is a ball, and your competitor is a bowler. Now, if you hit the ball, you'll make runs. But if you hit the bowler, then nothing is going to happen. So your GP is the ball. You start hitting the GP, okay? But if you are betting too much on your competitors, so what happens in business is that focus is, to all of us call that way. However, it is an extremely difficult journey to focus only on a customer and not on a competitor. So everything below your GP, the costs that you are building are only keeping your competitors in mind. You have to trust your customer that your customers will come more, and completely lose your focus from your competitors. The given fact of life is that today you have 5 competitors, that tomorrow you will have 50. The company has to grow even if there are 500 competitors, because today you have 5,000 customers, tomorrow you can have 5 million. There is no way your competitors can keep a pace of what your customer can give you. And therefore focus on the ball, not on the bowler. How hard you hit the bowler, it's not going to make runs for you.
Very fair point. Extremely fair. Vishnu, a question for you.
Yeah.
Could you share some, speeches or the ways that you've been able to sell during these lockdown days? I think this is from they want to understand how do we sell during lockdown. It's a very difficult art these days.
Okay. So the question is, how do we sell something during this lockdown? Okay. So our basic product has been as healthy foods. We call it as superfoods. So we sell a package which has superfoods plus diet counseling. Okay, now without superfood, the package is irrelevant. You can't sell anything. Okay, so I think so within again one or 2 days, we launched a package where we said first 2 months is without superfoods. You just get the diet counseling. After 2 months, once the market opens up, we will give you with superfoods, and first 2 months is complimentary. So we are giving you 4 months at the cost of 2 months, and for us the cost of that 2 months is not much. We are anyways paying to our employees, and counseling can be done over the phone. And also for regular packages where you took, for example, a package which had superfood, we said till the time we can give you superfood, we'll give you free diet counseling. So it's an extension. You take a 10 months program from us, your actual program will start probably in June, but till that time we'll give you free counseling, which is itself worth a couple of thousand rupees. Hence you can continue to buy. So because of doing that, we could do some revenue. It's still a smaller revenue, but I think so we moved in the right direction. And bigger change required is in the mindset of the team, mindset of the employees. So you are used to selling in a particular way that many people still don't change easily at all levels. So I think so the change management is a bigger problem. Outside customer, I think so, is more open to accepting ideas like this. But your internal stakeholders have more questions in their mind. Also, for example, we had home consultation as the model, where we meet you at your home. But how do we meet you at your home now? So 95% of our sales used to happen at home consultation, and now there's no home consultation which is possible. So we are moving towards online, phone, video consultation, which I think so in the long term will help more beneficial for us, because we have been present only in 6 cities so far. Because of the presence of the staff in the cities, now through phone we can sell all over the country, probably all over the world. So it could be a blessing in disguise if we use this opportunity to pivot and not just see it as a short-term problem that after 2 months we'll go back to our old habits. I think so we have to accept that whatever we are learning is going to stay with us forever, and we have to become better and not see it as a short-term handicap only.
Now, one more question for both of you. How or what are the opportunities that you've spotted during these few days? Is there any opportunity which is not existing right now, but you have spotted it, and that's something that you'll want to work on once the market opens up? Maybe
So
you want to.
I would want to give you an example. In healthcare, what happens, no matter what example we give, it becomes a little lopsided simply because healthcare is an industry that's not affected so much as from the lockdown. So temporary disruption is much lower for us, and therefore becomes much easier to kind of. I'm a promoter of a company which is a bakery, which is a artisanal chocolatier. Okay, and they make cakes. And they make, now the problem that we were facing was there were no transportation, there were no chefs, we could not run the kitchen. Now the question is how, so the company is facing a lockdown, okay? And we said what to do now, okay? We said the business in our company, as I said, is always what the customer wants, Customer wants to eat a cake, customer wants, okay? He's got more time, what can he do? Okay, so we said instead of now making cakes and chocolates, we will make do-it-yourself kits, which is we'll pack the raw materials, we will think 5 nights, 6 nights, we kept on negotiating, नहीं ये अच्छा नहीं है, ये flavor अच्छा नहीं है, ये बनाने में आसान नहीं है, ये gadget सबके घर पे नहीं होगा. So try and make it extremely simple, but it should give a feeling of cooking to a housewife. Or many girls who are normally spending a lot of time in their offices have this that nahi yaar main cook nahi kar pati hu, main bake nahi kar pati hu. Okay, so we created 5 products, we put it in a do-it-yourself kind of a fully, so if you buy that box, nothing more you have to do. Now, as against a cake requiring cooking, as against a cake requiring very fragile transportation and having a very, very limited kind of a shelf life, these were 3 problems that we were facing with our current business model. Now our business model has become all of a sudden from a small South Bombay based business vision to become all India business vision. Because these boxes anybody can buy. Okay, and currently I'm very happy to tell you that current run rate of business revenue wise is bigger than the previous business.
Wow.
Before lockdown we were doing a lesser business. And now we are actually doing more.
This is incredible.
This is actually entrepreneur taking the front seat.
Outcome out of what the customer wants. If in my kitchen I would have stood and told them, boss, पहला तो 1000 रुपया sale था. Now find out how to make it 2000. They say you are crazy. Now everything is locked down, customers are not placing orders, how 1000 will become 2000? So instead of focusing on sale, focus on customer needs.
Okay, now this question is not more of a question, this is more of a prayer. It says, how do we survive in this time? I opened my business just about a week before lockdown. Please help. I'll not be able to take it because you don't know what problem is and what business line is. So I'll that's more of a prayer. I think you need to
okay, I'll give my views. Yeah, Gulshan, please go ahead.
I've invested in 2 businesses. Both of them were, one is sports, wear for women. The orders were placed in November, December. And that was in a place near to Wuhan. And so from December, what happened there. So the material could never come. Now, when it was getting slightly better in February, by which time March, the closure happened in India. And there is a 26-year-old entrepreneur who has started and gone completely into depression now. And there's another girl I know who has opened a small cafeteria. Interiors done, entire money spent. And she was to inaugurate on let's say, something like mid of March, but now everything is locked down. So two such businesses, they don't need to pray. They need to only say two things. God is making them tougher in life. They are having a bigger net practice, and after that net practice, I'm sure they will go into something called as revenge, a kind of mode. Hello.
Yeah, Gulshan, we can hear.
So
I always tell them that God is giving you enough time to do net practice before you get a test break. You're not as lucky to get a very early test break, but there are ample players who were made to wait in the nets, but when they came, they proved their mettle far beyond that. And in fact, the country realized that. So that's what my kind of.
If you're good enough, if you're smart enough, you'll make it. It's just a matter of time then.
Yeah, I would in fact like to add that recession is the best time to start a business. And he's lucky that he started a week back. Yeah, costs are low. You look at the fundamental. You don't get the easy money. You look at your customers' feedbacks far more minutely, and you don't take things for granted. So I started my company at 2008 recession. At the peak of recession, when the recession started, I started my company with as little cost as possible. And if you look at history of majority of good companies, all big companies have started in some recession. So recession is the time to build strong fundamental companies. So I think so, Rishabh, you should be happy, and you're only 1 week old. You don't have too much of cost. Use this time perfectly fine. Think about businesses like Gulshan has 4,000 people, I have 400 employees. For us, it's a bigger challenge when you have a family of 400 people or 4,000 people to feed. You don't have that challenge right now.
So in the interest of time now, the last question to you, Vishnu, it is that we launched a new product that you had been using called EPOS. Just share a few experiences of how did it help, what were you enabled it with, and your experiences around that.
Yeah. So EPOS. So for example, in today's time in April, whatever revenue we could do largely because of EPOS. If EPOS wasn't there, there was no way customers could make payment for us. Okay, but that's the beauty of digitization, that not just payments, they could also convert few of their transactions into EMI. And even if you don't convert into EMI, you are getting a 30-day credit because you are using your credit card. So even if people don't have money, when you have to pay after 30 days, you tend to take it much lightly. Okay. If you have to pay now, vis-a-vis paying 30 days later, chances of you purchasing is much higher when you have to pay 30 days later. You're getting a free credit. So I think so. EPOS from that perspective has helped us, is going to help us even more going forward. And my request to you, Amit, is that try and figure out how do we get more and more EMIs on debit card as well. How do we make it easier for consumers, make it as robust as possible now? I think so, even as a business, you will have a lot more focus on EPOS. I think so you started just at the right time. Just a month or 2 months back.
As a good entrepreneur now, I'm just trying to push in one question. It says that, and anybody of you can take this pick. Sir, what do you think about the post-lockdown? Would everything be fine and normal?
It will be better, and it will be in a new normal.
I agree. It will be new normal. It won't be same as before. Okay, now if people expect same as being normal, it will not be same as before. Things will be different. Lot of things will be different, and that will be the normal. So you have to adapt yourself to the new normal. Things will not be that doomsday that things are going to end. People who are not willing to adapt will see bigger hardships. And recession is part of parcel of life.
Come towards the end of our discussion. It was more than anything else a fantastic exercise for me personally. It was very enriching. Got to know two beautiful minds. You've actually gone the grind, and you are extreme. And I'm not saying this because you are in front of me. Very smart ways of living your business lives. And think very differently now. Like I personally take out now that customer is actually the king. I was always worried about ki profit to nahi hit hoga, but you've opened my mind. If there is no customer, there is no profit. I have to be flexible to the extent of the customer and not to the extent of my own profit. Also, at the end of the day, if you're fighting your battle, you're not dying if you're surviving. It's the one fine day, all of us will be living maybe new normal, but survive till that day and not leaving the journey and quitting, I think would be one of the biggest factors between success and failures of the businessman. I was just thanking both of you, Gulshan and Vikas, Vishnu. Beautiful discussion to learn personally. I'm sure if an idiot like me could learn so much, there are some brilliant brains during this conversation. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you, Rashi and Sahil, for fixing all of this up. It is a fantastic 1 hour spent. Thank you, everybody who was logged in and was there asking questions, participating. Though I think it was still more of we three having a discussion over coffees at our homes, but I'm sure that you would have had your degrees of this discussion. My key take homes are be as good as your customer wants you to be. Don't worry about the cost, be worried about your customer. Be very flexible. Do not leave the ball and run away. Your persistence will make the difference, whether you are a successful person at the end of it or not. The world will come back to something. It will be the normal of that time, but may not be the normal as in past. So there would be a normal, which will be a new normal. Be ready for that. Don't run away from it, because there's a lot of money to be made if you start up now. So if you're starting up now, don't be worried. You're at very good net practice. More now saves a lot of blood in future.
Thanks, Amit. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Bye, Vishnu.